Our next storyteller coming to the stage was recently on This American Life, and you may have heard his story on there. And if you hadn't, you should go back and check it out. What was the show called? What was the title of the show?
Pro Se.
Pro Se, right, which means to be your own lawyer. So go back and check it out. Jeff Simmermon on This American Life, the episode Pro Se, and now see him here live, right here, right now. Jeff Simmermon, everyone.
Sorry, guys. So it's a really nice warm-up, but this is kind of a story in progress. And earlier I was talking about it with Margot, and Margot said, "Are you sure you're ready to talk about this?" And I was like, "No, but I'm ready to be ready." So that's something. The loosest shoehorn that I can use to cram this story into the theme is that it's been happening to me this summer. And it sort of all started because I don't know why I buy the bullshit, and I was thinking, I want to get in really good shape by summertime or whatever, so I've been working out really, really hard, and I go to a Muay Thai kickboxing gym, and it had been, I've been going maybe there 5 times a week, and it's just all push-ups, sit-ups, sparring, push-ups, sit-ups, sparring, and there's a lot of kicking and a lot of kicking and punching and things like that. And I was sparring with this little guy named Max, who's about 5'4", this Dominican guy, and he is whipping my ass. And I have to say that doesn't usually happen, although I don't set myself up to be any kind of great king of the ring. He's just like, you just got to reach on him, And I'm exhausted. I'd been exhausted for months, and I thought it was because of all the constant, intense physical activity. I can't really concentrate, and I noticed I've been getting kind of crappy at holding pads. And Max is doing this thing they call the Superman, where you fake a kick, and then he leaps up to my height and clocks me across the face. And he'd done it about 3 times, and I was just like, ugh, why can I not focus on this? This is really hard, but I'm going to outsmart him. So the next time he fakes a kick, I just go to block my face, except for that's a real kick, and he just goes wham, and he kicks me right in the balls really hard, and it doesn't feel awesome, and it feels a new kind of bad that I've never felt before. So I just leave in the middle of class and I go home, and I'm sort of checking it out, and I discover that I have a sort of swelling situation. I basically have been carrying around a Cadbury egg in my shorts for quite some time, this huge hard thing, and I was like, that looks like somebody else's nuts, or another one looks like a much larger animal's nuts that does a lot of fighting, and so I go to the doctor, and the doctor checks it out, and he tells me, well, turns out the reason you're so exhausted all the time is because you have cancer, and you have testicular cancer, and this thing's got to come out right now. And I said, by now, do you mean how much time do I have to schedule the operation? And he said, how does tomorrow sound for you? Because this is a really fast-growing tumor. And I thought, well, if that's what you say, okay. And the next 24 hours, it's just this blur of phone calls. I call my mom, and I get her to come up, and I sort of line things up so I can have a guest, and I'm getting all set for this thing. And the whole time I was doing this, I was thinking, it's not that I have a problem with losing a testicle, it's that I have a problem with the way I'm losing one, because I'd be okay with losing it if I were fighting an octopus in an undersea battle, or if I was on a pirate ship and he has his saber out and I'm like, do your worst, No, it's both exotic and pedestrian and, way too terrifying for me. But I was holding it together really, really well for a while there. And then I'm in the waiting room to go through a CAT scan. You have to drink this bottle of Crystal Light and laced with radioactive dye and just kind of marinate the tissues. And I was just sitting there drinking this thing, and until I'm freaking out because I am actively and aggressively reading real hard, which is how I got through middle school and high school, right? Is I'm just jamming the words into my eyes. And if it were if it were a submarine sandwich, I'd just be eating this thing, and because I can see out the periphery of my eyes, there were some very gray children in the room that have been fighting cancer a lot harder than I'm ever going to have to, and they are not necessarily winning that fight right now. And right across from me, there's an Indian couple, and the woman has clearly had a double mastectomy, and she's missing a lot of hair. And they're just kind of waiting there, and she finishes her drink, and she puts the bottle down and kind of taps her husband on the arm. He's like, all right. And he comes over and he sits next to me, and she goes into a prayer position and begins to meditate for a very long time. And then eventually the nurse comes and taps her, and she kind of comes up out of her state and just walks off and waves to her husband. And he's sitting right next to me. He turns to me and he says, so what are you in for? And I tell him, and he winces because every guy always does. And he says, I was like, how's it going for you guys? And he says, well, you know, I can't honestly say that this has been an entirely bad thing for us. We've had a lot of problems, sure, but... And he just looks me right in the eyes, and he just starts getting super real, super fast. And he says, we've been married for 30 years, and in there were ups and there were downs, and we were sort of on a down when this happened. And this has increased our closeness and our communication more than I can possibly describe. Our adult children, who we never thought we would ever live with, are having us to live with us in the Upper West Side this fall, and our entire family is closer now, and it has all come from this. He says, my wife lives a more disciplined life now. She's exercising, she's eating healthy, she's inspired me to do the same. And now I'm going to tell you, and he grabs my arm, and he says, this is going to improve your life if you'll let it. He was like, all you have to do is find the thing that you want and open your heart, and you will find that thing, and it will come into your life, and you're going to be richer for it. You're going to live through this, and you're going to be fine. And it was at that moment that I was finally able to cry and just let all of this fear and everything just fly out. And I'm holding a total stranger's hand in this cancer ward and just crying. And then it stops, and a nurse comes and grabs me to go back and get my CAT scan. And he looks and he gives me this big cheesy grin and 2 thumbs up. And that's the last I ever saw him. And the next 24 hours are a huge blur, and there's a series of blood tests, and there's getting my mom situated and making sure I can eat in time and like, get up in time and do it. I have got blood coming and going from my arms like crazy. They need to install a revolving door right here. And finally, I'll never understand why they did this shit, but they said, okay, we're going to walk you into the OR now. And I was like, well, you mean you're not going to knock me out here? And they were like, no, we do that in there now. So I go and I am escorted into the operating room. And I walk in there like, under my own power, on my own 2 feet. And it's just this screaming bright white light. Like, this is where they take you after the aliens abduct you. There are these giant sort of robotic arms everywhere with all this sharp shit at the end of them. And I know it's all going to be aimed at me. And there's like 10 people all in gowns and masks, and they all turn and look at me simultaneously. And one of them says, Mr. Simmermon, we're so glad you could come. And she goes up to shake my hand. And above this sort of corona of screaming white light, there's this black shape. And I can't see it when I look directly at it, but out of the corner of my eyes, I can tell that it's this giant black bird just resting there and looking at me. And they say, well, sit down here. We're all ready for you. And it is then that I begin to really freak out. And I told them, suddenly my bladder gets like this big. And I was like, I gotta pee. And they said, well, okay, that's fine, but we need to get you prepped and, lie down. It'll be fine. And I was like, no, you don't understand. I really have to go to the bathroom. And they were like, no, that's normal. It's okay. It's a reaction to whatever. And I was like, yeah, I know, but you're about to cut off one of my balls, and I don't want to piss all over your hands while you're doing it, if that's all right by you. It's kind of a respect thing. And they were like, no, we understand. It's just fine. Just relax. And then I really lost it. And I sat up and was like, you relax. Let's have a show of hands. Who's got all their testicles right now? Who has been through this? And they were like, look. And I was like, no, you've got the knives and you've got the drugs, and I want to know that you're a lot calmer than I am. And then wham, I'm just gone. The darkness just like raises up, and I know it's just the anesthesia that they put into me, but I could swear it was that bird just like raising its wings.